Snow slapped against the cracked window as Maya Carter slammed her hand down on the table, making the loose coins jump. "That's it?" she whispered. "Rent, heat, food. One of them would lose tonight." Outside, Eastbridge drowned in the worst blizzard of the year. And inside, Maya counted $32 and some change. Her phone buzzed with another notification from the power company. Final notice. She flipped it face down. "I'm trying," she muttered. "I am trying." Someone pounded on her front door. Not a polite knock. A frantic, "open now or someone dies" kind of pounding. Maya froze. The last time she opened her door for a stranger, she'd ended up with an empty purse and months of fear. The pounding came again, louder. "Please!" a man's voice shouted over the wind. "Someone, please!" Maya's heart crashed against her ribs. Her grandmother's voice slipped in. "When you can help, you help. Don't let fear make you small, baby." She inched toward the door, each step dragging old memories. Her fingers shook as she slid the chain lock into place and peered through the peephole. Snow whipped across the hallway. A man stood there, his coat white with ice. In his arms, pressed against his chest, was a little girl. Her face was gray-pale, eyes closed, lips tinged blue. "Please," the man called again. "She's burning up. The car spun out and my phone died. We just need somewhere warm for her. Just for a few hours, please." Fear screamed no. Her heart whispered, "Look at the child." Maya's hand hovered on the lock. The girl's small fingers twitched, a tiny movement that sliced through her hesitation. Before she could talk herself out of it, she unlatched the chain, unlocked the deadbolt, and yanked the door open. The cold slammed into her first, then the roar of the storm, then the sight of the man up close, late 30s, eyes bloodshot from worry. The girl's head lolled on his shoulder. "Thank you," he breathed. "Get in," Maya said, stepping back. "Hurry." He slipped past her, careful with the girl. Maya shoved the door shut and locked it again. "Put her on the couch," she said, moving automatically. Years of home health work clicked on. "I'll get blankets." He nodded stiffly. "Her name is Nia," he said. "I'm Adrian." Maya grabbed the thickest blanket she owned and wrapped it around the child. Nia's skin burned against her fingers. Fever, high. "How long has she been like this?" Maya asked. "Couple of days," Adrian said. "Doctor said it was viral, but tonight she started shivering and then the car." His voice broke. "I lost control. We hit a snowbank. I tried calling an ambulance, but the phone died, and no one answered anywhere else. No one. All those lit windows, all those locked doors." Maya looked at Nia's flushed face and saw herself at 8 years old, watching her father fight for breath while they waited for an ambulance that took too long. "Okay," she said softly. "She's here now. I've got you." She filled a bowl with cool water, soaked a washcloth, pressed it to Nia's forehead. She set a pot of canned soup on the stove, her mind buzzing with "what have you done? You don't know this man. He could be anyone." But every time she pulled back, Nia whimpered, or Adrian whispered, "It's okay, baby. You're safe." And the wall around Maya's heart cracked. "So, you just knock on random doors in blizzards?" she asked finally, trying to cut the silence as the soup simmered. A rough laugh escaped Adrian. "No, I promise I'm not usually that reckless." He rubbed a hand over his face. "I saw your light. It was the only one on. It looked hopeful." "You picked the poorest apartment on the block," Maya said. He glanced around second-hand couch, mismatched chairs, tiny kitchen. His gaze held no pity. "Still the only door that opened," he said. Time slid by. The storm outside howled, but the apartment warmed. Nia's breathing evened out. She woke once, mumbling, "Daddy?" and blinked up at Maya. "Hey, sweetheart," Maya whispered. "You're okay. You're warm now." Nia's small fingers closed weakly around hers. "You smell like cinnamon," she murmured. Then she drifted off again. The words hit Maya harder than she expected. It had been a long time since anyone in this room had said anything that sounded like comfort. The clock crawled past midnight, then 2, then 4. At some point Adrian dozed off in the chair, head tipped back, Nia's hand still caught in his. Maya watched them, arms wrapped around herself, mind racing with questions she was too afraid to ask. Who exactly was this man? Why did his voice sound like he was used to being obeyed? By the time a dull gray light edged around the curtains, the storm had softened to a whisper. Nia's fever had come down. Her skin felt hot but not boiling under Maya's palm. Maya stood at the window and stared out at the buried cars and snowbanks. Her life last night, overdue bills, cold air, $32 on the table. Her life now, a stranger and his sick daughter asleep on her couch because she'd opened a door she swore she'd never open again. She touched the cold glass and let out a shaky breath. "What did I just change?" she whispered. If you're still watching this, take a second to like the video, hit subscribe, and tell us in the comments what you would have done if you heard that knock. Now, watch what happens when the sun finally rises on this storm. The smell of cheap coffee drifted through the apartment when Adrian finally woke up. For a second, he just stared at the ceiling, disoriented. Then he turned his head and saw Nia curled under the blanket, color back in her cheeks. "Nia," he breathed, leaning forward. "Baby girl." Maya checked the girl's forehead. "Fever's down," she said. "You got lucky." "She got lucky," Adrian corrected. "We found you." He tried to stand too fast and swayed. Maya caught his elbow without thinking. His arm was solid, too warm, too close. She stepped back quickly. "I made coffee," she said. "It's not good, but it's hot." He took the mug with both hands. "Hot is perfect," he said. "I haven't felt my fingers since last night." Nia blinked awake, lashes sticking together. "Daddy?" she whispered. "I'm here," he said instantly. "You're okay. Remember? We found the nice lady." Nia's gaze slid to Maya. "Hi," she croaked. "Hey, trouble," Maya said gently. "How are you feeling?" "Like soup," Nia said. "And car crash." She paused. "We didn't break your house, did we?" Maya couldn't help it. She laughed. "No. It was already like this before you got here." Nia smiled a little, then yawned. "It's cozy," she said. "Smells like cinnamon and old books." "She's observant," Adrian murmured. "She's honest," Maya replied. "You taught her that?" He shrugged. "Life did." His phone started buzzing on the table. It didn't just ring once, it lit up again and again, one call rolling into the next. Unknown numbers, saved names, an email notification bar sliding across the top. "You can answer," Maya said. "I won't bite." He sighed and picked it up. "Yeah," he said, voice flipping into something calmer, sharper. "This is Adrian. I'm fine. Nia's fine. Push the meeting back." "No, push it. Tell them I said so." His tone was different now. No pleading, no panic. Just quiet authority. Whoever was on the other end must have agreed, because he said, "Good," and hung up. Maya narrowed her eyes. "You don't sound like somebody who works in a company," she said. "You sound like somebody who runs one." "Maybe I do," he said, evasive. "What kind of company?" she pressed. "Logistics, tech, warehouses. It's a mess of trucks and software." He shrugged like it was nothing. "Mostly emails and problems." "Must be nice, having problems that call you all morning," she said. "It's not as nice as it looks," he replied. "Sometimes it's just heavier." He checked the time and blew out a breath. Tow truck should be here soon. The roads finally opened up. The next hour moved too fast. Nia sat up long enough to drink some water and nibble stale crackers. Maya packed up the few things they'd scattered around. The tow truck's rumble echoed up from the street. At the door, Nia threw her arms around Maya's waist. "Thank you," she whispered. "For the blanket, and the soup, and your face." "My face?" Maya repeated, amused. "It's a kind face," Nia said simply. "My mom had one." Adrian flinched. Something in his eyes went distant and dark for half a second. "I'll walk you down," Maya said quickly, to cut the heavy silence. At the bottom of the stairs, in the drafty hallway, Adrian reached for his wallet. Maya stiffened, already shaking her head. "If you try to pay me," she said, "I'll throw you back in the snow." He blinked, then laughed, the sound startled and real. "That's not what I'm doing," he said. He pulled out a slim black card. No logo, just a name and number. "This is my direct line. If you ever need anything, call me." She stared at it. "Why?" "Because you didn't ask who I was before you helped," he said quietly. "You didn't record it for likes. You didn't bargain. You just opened your door. Where I come from, that kind of goodness doesn't go unpaid. Let me balance it if you ever need it." "I'm not a charity case," she muttered. "I know," he said. "That's why I trust you with the number." He held the card out, steady. After a long second, she took it and shoved it into her pocket like it burned. "Fine," she said, "but I probably won't call." He smiled sadly. Most people don't. But if you do, I'll answer. He turned toward the tow truck, Nia's small hand in his. The wind whipped his coat, the snow creaked under their boots, and then they were gone. The hallway felt huge once the door closed. Maya went back upstairs, pulled out the card, and finally read the name. Adrian Cole. The letters buzzed in her brain. She'd seen that name somewhere on a billboard, a news notification, a headline she'd scrolled past because it felt like it belonged to another planet. She shrugged it off. Billionaire, millionaire, whatever heir, none of that paid her bills. She slid the card into her wallet behind her bus pass and went to work. Then everything started to fall. One client died. Another moved to assisted living. The clinic cut her hours. The landlord's tone changed. The power company's red letters grew bolder. She worked double shifts, triple shifts, dragged herself home with feet so sore she wanted to cry. She pawned her TV, then her dad's watch, then her grandmother's ring. Each loss left a new hollow in her chest. One evening, she climbed the stairs on numb legs and found a fresh notice taped to her door. Final warning before eviction. Her vision blurred. Inside, the apartment felt colder than the hallway. She dropped her bag, and her wallet spilled open. The black card slid across the floor and bumped against her foot. Maya stared at it for a long time. Her pulse pounded in her ears. "You don't even know me," she whispered. "You have no reason to care." But she saw Nia again in her mind, burning with fever, whispering, "Your face is kind." She heard Adrian, "You gave my daughter safety." Her pride screamed, "Don't call." Her exhaustion answered, "You can't do this alone anymore." Her hand shook as she picked up her phone and punched in the number. The line rang once. "Maya?" Adrian's voice came through, surprised but warm. "Are you okay?" "No," she said, and her voice finally broke. "I'm really not. If you've ever been pushed to that breaking point, hit like, subscribe, and drop 'I understand' in the comments. Because what Adrian does after this call, it turns a poor woman's act of kindness into something much bigger than she ever imagined." Adrian didn't waste time asking for details over the phone. "Text me your address again," he said. "I'm coming over." "You don't have to." "I'm coming," he repeated, firm but gentle. "Leave the chain on if it makes you feel safer. But please open the door." He hung up before she could argue. Maya stared at the screen. Some part of her wanted to run, to pretend she'd never called. Instead, she picked up the crumpled eviction notice from the table and smoothed it out with shaking hands. 25 minutes later, another knock sounded, softer this time, controlled. She left the chain on and cracked the door. Adrian stood there in a dark wool coat, snow dusting his shoulders. No security, no entourage, just him and the same worried eyes she remembered. "Hey," he said quietly. "Can I come in?" She studied him for a beat, then closed the door, undid the chain, and opened it fully. "You're persistent," she muttered. "I told you I answer when people call," he replied. Inside, his gaze moved over the room quickly, not lingering, but taking everything in. The shut-off notice on the counter, the empty TV stand, the blanket folded too neatly, like it hadn't been used in weeks because she'd been too tired to sit. He didn't say, "You're in trouble." He didn't say, "I knew this would happen." He just asked, "What happened?" "Life happened," she shot back, then sighed. "Clients died or moved. Hours got cut. Rent went up. Math stopped being my friend." She pushed the eviction paper toward him with 2 fingers. "I've got 2 weeks," she said hoarsely. "After that, I'm out." He read the notice, jaw flexing. "How much do you need to catch up?" She bristled. "I didn't call for a handout." "I know," he said. "But I'm allowed to ask." "What I need," she said slowly, "is not another patch. I need a way off this hamster wheel. I can't keep working myself into the ground just to lose ground anyway. I'm tired, Adrian. I'm so tired." For a moment, he was quiet. Then he pulled out a chair and sat, like he was settling into a meeting that actually mattered. "Good," he said. She stared at him. "Good?" "Good that you're tired of barely surviving," he said. "Because I've been trying to build something for people exactly like you, and it keeps failing because I don't know what it feels like anymore. I remember, but I don't live it." He took a breath. "I told you that I run a company. That wasn't the whole truth. I own it. Cole Horizons. Maybe you've heard the name." Maya blinked. Then the memory clicked: billboards on the highway, a headline on her phone. Cole Horizon's CO donates millions to state initiatives. The face in the photo had seemed like another species. Untouchable. "You're that Adrian Cole?" she whispered. "Unfortunately, yeah," he said dryly. "Don't hold it against me." Her stomach dropped. "Why didn't you say anything that night?" "Because if you knew, you might not have opened the door," he answered simply. "And I needed you to open it for the right reason." She sank into the chair opposite him. "So what? You want to write me a check and make yourself feel better?" His eyes sharpened. "I told you. I'm not here to hand out charity. I'm here because I need a partner." "A what?" she scoffed. "A partner," he repeated. "For a project I've been trying to start in neighborhoods like Eastbridge. Job training, food support, child care. Real help that doesn't feel like begging. We built a prototype in another city, but it flopped. People didn't trust it, because every decision was made by people in suits." He leaned forward. "You opened your door in the worst night of your life. You work with seniors, sick people, families hanging by a thread. You know this world from the inside. I don't. I need that. I need you." Maya stared at him like he'd grown a second head. "You want me to, what? Give feedback?" "I want you to run the Eastbridge Center," he said. "Full-time, with authority, with pay that doesn't insult your effort." She laughed, sharp and disbelieving. "You're insane." "Probably," he said. "But I'm also serious. Coordinator of the Open Doors Project. That's what we're calling it. Starting salary $70,000 a year. Health insurance, retirement plan, support team, training. And we cover your back rent today so you're not homeless while you save other people." Her ears rang. The number sounded fake, like something people said on TV. "I don't have a degree," she blurted. "I've never run anything. I barely keep myself together." "Degrees didn't open that door," he said. "Fear didn't. Kindness did. You know what it feels like to need help and hate needing it. That's exactly who should be designing how we help." Tears burned behind her eyes. "What if I fail?" "Then we learn and try again," he said. "With you getting paid the whole time. You've already been doing impossible things for pennies. Let me see what you do when you're not constantly drowning." Silence stretched. Maya looked around at the apartment that had held every version of her struggle, at the table where she'd counted coins, at the door she'd sworn she'd never open again. "What would I have to do?" she asked finally. "Work with my existing team to build the Eastbridge Center," he said. "Help choose staff. Talk to your neighbors. Tell us what we got wrong last time. Fight me if I make rich people assumptions. I can take it." She scrubbed a hand over her face. "You're really offering me a job?" "I'm really offering you a future," he said quietly. "With a contract, not just a promise." She let out a shaky laugh. "You know this sounds like one of those scam calls, right?" He smiled. "I can show you the paperwork." For the first time in months, maybe years, something flickered in her chest that wasn't dread. It was small and fragile, but it was there. "Okay," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "I'll try. I don't know if I'm what you think I am, but I'll try." Adrian exhaled like he'd been holding his breath the whole time. "Good," he said, "because I think you're more than you think you are." He stood, pulled out his phone. "First step," he said, "we clear that back rent. Second step, we get you into training. Third step, we open some doors together." Maya watched him make the call, heard him calmly pay off months of her fear in a 3-minute conversation. Her throat tightened, but not from shame this time, from relief so sharp it hurt. "If you're watching this and you've ever wished for just one chance like this," the narrator might say, "hit that subscribe button, tap like, and tell us in the comments what kind of door you'd open for your community if you could. Because for Maya, the real work and the real battle is only just beginning." The training was a blur of new words, budgets, grants, metrics, liability. Maya's brain hurt at the end of every day, but she refused to tap out. Each night she dragged herself back to her apartment, looked at the eviction notice now crumpled in the trash, and reminded herself she'd outrun it. 3 months later, the Open Doors Center in Eastbridge opened its doors. The building was an old warehouse they'd gutted and remade. Maya had insisted on warm colors, wide aisles, no glass barriers between staff and clients. "No one walks in here and feels like a case file," she'd told the designers. "They walk in and feel like neighbors." On opening day, people trickled in slowly. Some came for the job skills lab, old computers replaced with new ones, rows of chairs for interview practice. Others came for the market, where shelves held canned goods, produce, milk, not behind a counter but out in the open. You mean we can just pick stuff? A tired-looking mother asked, clutching her tote bag. You scan your card, Maya said, showing her the simple system. It tracks what you take so we can plan inventory, but you choose. No one standing over you counting cans. The woman's eyes filled with tears. Nobody's ever let me choose, she whispered. Down the hall, a room full of toys and mats buzzed with toddler laughter. Child care, Maya explained to anyone who asked. Sliding scale. And if you can't afford that, you can swap hours, watch someone else's kid while they work, then they watch yours. Word spread. The center started filling up. Maya hired staff who knew the grind. Sophia, who'd worked 2 warehouse jobs to keep her family fed. Marcus, laid off from a factory after 15 years. Volunteers from the neighborhood. For a while, it felt like magic. Then the backlash started. A local radio host sneered on air. Isn't it convenient that billionaire Adrian Cole suddenly cares about the poor, right when his company's in the news for worker complaints? A viral post on social media called the Open Doors Center a PR stunt, and implied that anyone who walked in was being used for photos and numbers. At a community meeting, a man stood up and shouted, "You think putting his name on a building fixes what people like him did to us? Wake up." Maya's stomach twisted as whispers spread. People she'd grown up with started looking at her like she'd switched teams. One afternoon, she walked outside to find a small group of protesters with cardboard signs. No more experiments on Eastbridge. We are not your project. No billionaire saviors. Tasha Green, who had been one of the first to volunteer, cornered Maya in the hallway that evening. You're losing them, Tasha said bluntly. I'm trying to help them, Maya snapped. I know that, Tasha said. But do they? Because right now it looks like decisions are still being made in some fancy conference room, and Eastbridge just gets the leftovers. Maya's chest tightened. I'm from here. I carry groceries up these stairs. I've been broke and scared right alongside them. I know, Tasha repeated. So why aren't there more people like you at the table? Why is it you, Adrian, and his people calling the shots? She stepped closer. You want them to trust you? Give them power, not pamphlets. The words stung because they were true. That night, Maya sat alone in her tiny office at the center, staring at the mission statement on the wall. Dignity, opportunity, community. Community, she whispered. I've been talking to them, not with them. The next week, she called a meeting not in a conference room, but in the main hall. No stage, no podium, just folding chairs in a circle. Tonight, she said when people gathered, arms crossed, eyes wary. I'm not here to defend this place. I'm here to shut up and listen. Tell me what we got wrong. At first, the complaints came out harsh and tangled. You didn't ask what hours we needed. You don't have anyone who speaks Spanish at the front desk. I don't trust any building with a rich man's name on it. What happens when the cameras go away? Do you pack up and leave too? Maya wrote every comment down. Her throat burned, but she didn't argue. When they were done, she took a breath. Okay, she said. Then help me fix it. I want a council. Elected from this neighborhood. People who've actually stood in food lines. People who know what it's like when your lights get cut. You'll see the budget. You'll vote on priorities. You'll tell me when I'm wrong. Who's willing to step up? Silence. Then Tasha raised her hand. If you're serious, she said, eyes narrowed. I'll run. Good, Maya replied. I hope you win. Within a month, they had a community advisory council, Tasha. 2 single mothers, an older man on disability, a student, and a local shop owner. They voted to change hours, hire bilingual staff, add transportation vouchers. They pushed to remove Adrian's name from the front of the building. When Maya brought that last one to him, he just nodded. It was your name they needed to see anyway, he said. For a few precious months, everything seemed to balance. The lines grew shorter but more constant. People began to say, I'm going to the center, like it had always been there. Then the board at Cole Horizons called. You know that feeling when you thought you'd finally caught a break, and then it starts to slip through your fingers? If you've ever been there, hit like, subscribe, and let us know in the comments. Because Maya is about to find out how fragile good things can be when big money gets nervous. Adrian walked into the center one morning with a look Maya had never seen on his face before. Not tired, not stressed, something colder. Office? He asked quietly. Her stomach dropped. She led him to the small room they shared for serious talks, the one with the second-hand desk and the potted plant. Tasha kept forgetting to water. The corporate board had an emergency meeting, Adrian said, closing the door behind them. They've been fielding calls. Politicians, shareholders, people who don't like what we're doing here. We're feeding children and helping their parents work, Maya said. What's there not to like? Some people think it makes us look too political, he said bitterly. Others say it's a waste of resources. They're scared of controversy. She stared at him. What are you saying? I'm saying the board voted, he replied. They want to pull company funding from the Open Doors project, not just here, everywhere. The room tilted. Pull? All of it? He nodded once. Within 3 months. Maya laughed, the sound sharp and shaky. So that's it? We prove this works, we build trust, we get people to walk through that door, and they just, turn off the lights because someone got uncomfortable? I fought them, he said. But they control the budget. I can't force them to keep paying for something they've decided is too risky. You're Adrian Cole, she snapped. The headlines make you sound like God. You mean to tell me you can't fix this? Being rich doesn't make me a god, he said quietly. It just gives me more expensive problems. Her eyes burned. So what do I tell them? She asked. The mom who just started her first stable job because we watched her kid? The guy Marcus helped get hired last week? Do I tell them the board got bored? Adrian's jaw flexed. No, he said. You tell them we're not closing. She blinked. What? I can't make the company keep paying for this, he said. But I can choose what I do with my own money. He took a breath. I've already started the paperwork for a separate nonprofit. Independent. No corporate board. I seed it with my personal funds. It'll be a smaller budget, but it'll be ours. Yours. The community's. Maya stared at him. You'd walk away from your own board? I won't walk away from them, he said. But I'll walk away from this being under their control. He leaned forward. I told you from the start. This only works if the people this place serves are the ones shaping it. I meant that. I can't promise it'll be easy. There will be cuts. Pay. Programs. We'll have to fight for grants and donations. But if you're willing to stay, I am too. She thought about the long lines at the market, the kids in the playroom, Tasha yelling in every meeting and then hugging people in the hall, the walls of testimonies pinned up in the lobby. I got my first job here. I didn't give up because you fed my kids. How much will we have to cut? She asked, voice rough. 40% of salaries, at least at first, he said. We keep everyone if they're willing to sacrifice. Or, we close now, while we still look successful on paper. She didn't even have to think about her answer. We don't close, she said. We tell the truth. We let people choose whether to stay. When she gathered the staff and council that evening, the room crackled with fear and anger. Maya laid out the situation as clearly as she could. No sugarcoating. No maybes. If you walk away, she said, I will not blame you. You have families. You have your own bills. But if you stay, I promise you, I'm not walking out either. Silence. Then Marcus said, Cut my pay. I'll drive Uber at night if I have to. But I'm not abandoning the guys who finally trusted me. Sophia sighed. I've worked 2 jobs before, she said. I can do it again. I'm staying. One by one, they committed. Not without fear, not without frustration, but with stubborn, messy loyalty. The next 6 months were ugly and beautiful at once. They wrote grants, hosted community fundraisers, begged local businesses for sponsorships. They cut hours, then stretched themselves thin to cover the gaps. There were weeks Maya lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if she'd made a horrible mistake. Then one day, an email came in from a state representative who'd heard about the center and what had happened with the cut funding. We're holding hearings on community-led programs next month, the message read. We'd like someone from Open Doors to testify. Maya stared at the screen. Her palms got sweaty. Not it, Tasha said immediately when she showed her. I talk loud, not pretty. This one's you. Maya wanted to argue. She hated microphones. Her voice shook when too many eyes were on her. Adrian found her pacing in the hall. You're scared, he said. Terrified, she admitted. What if I mess it up? Then you'll mess it up honestly, he said. No one else can tell your story. Not like you can. You're the reason this place exists. The day of the hearing, the state building felt colder than any blizzard. Maya sat at the long table, heart thundering, fingers locked around her written statement. When they called her name, she stood on legs that didn't feel like hers. "Whenever you're ready," the committee chair said. She took a breath. "My name is Maya Carter," she began, voice trembling. 2 years ago, I was one shut-off notice away from losing my lights, and one eviction notice away from losing my home. I worked 2 jobs, and still had to decide between food and heat. I knew what it felt like to need help and hate needing it. She told them about the storm, about the knock, about a sick little girl and a stranger with desperate eyes, about opening the door even when fear told her to keep it shut. She told them about the first time a mother came into the market and cried because someone let her choose her own groceries, about the dad who'd never had a resume until Marcus sat with him for 3 hours, about the kids who ran into the center yelling like it was a playground, not a last resort. "People like me don't need pity," she said, voice steady now. "We need partners. We don't need someone to drop food from the sky and disappear. We need places where we're treated like human beings, where we sit on councils, where we see the budget, where we get to say, 'This is what works for us.'" She glanced back. In the audience, she saw Tasha, arms folded but eyes shining. Marcus, Sophia, a cluster of parents. Adrian, sitting quietly in the back, letting her have the light. "Someone once told me that accepting help can be the bravest thing you ever do," Maya said. "Today, I'm asking you to be brave enough to fund help that doesn't strip people of their dignity. Fund centers like ours, not as charity, but as partnership." When she finished, the room was silent for a moment. Then the questions came, sharp and political, but threaded with something else. Respect. Months later, a bill passed dedicating millions to support community-led centers in 10 cities. Open Doors Eastbridge became the model everyone pointed to. 2 years after that blizzard, the center hummed with life. There were more staff, better equipment, a line of kids' drawings along the hallway. The sign outside no longer had any corporate logo. It just read, "Open Doors Project. By Eastbridge, for Eastbridge." One afternoon, Adrian and Nia visited. Nia was taller now, cheeks full of color, a sketchbook tucked under her arm. "I made you something," she told Maya, shy but excited. The drawing showed 2 scenes side by side. On the left, a small snow-beaten apartment door, light spilling out into the storm. On the right, a big building with open glass doors, people streaming in and out, smiling. At the bottom, in crooked kid handwriting, it read, "Sometimes one open door can open a whole city." Maya swallowed hard. "I'm framing this," she said, front and center. As she hung it in the lobby, a new family stepped hesitantly inside, a woman clutching a broken purse strap, 2 kids hiding behind her legs. "Hi," Maya said, turning toward them with a smile. "Welcome. You're safe here. Tell me what you need, and we'll figure it out together." If this story touched you, don't leave without hitting that like button, subscribing to the channel, and sharing it with someone who needs hope today. And in the comments, tell us this. If a stranger knocked on your door one stormy night, would you open it?